Okay.
Hi everyone, so we're back for another Wednesday at the Bradford City of Climate Culture Climate Emergency Garden, and there are lots of people around today, and we've got plants growing really well in the garden. And to speak to us today we've got Bradford United Against Austerity, and Rob is going to speak to us for about 5 minutes on poverty, austerity and issues surrounding that, because even though we're focused on the climate crisis, we know that it's connected to basically every other major problem that is threatening humanity and threatening societies. So yeah, without further ado, we'll hear from Rob to talk about their campaign.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much for the invitation to this brilliant initiative. Bradford United Against Austerity was set up in the wake of the 10% council tax rise being proposed by the council. There was clearly a groundswell of opposition, and we were worried also that it would be opportunistically exploited by reform. This is the fifth poorest city in England, and the council tax, some people might remember, was brought in as an emergency measure after politics was defeated. It's based on arbitrary valuations from 1991, it's unrelated to the ability to pay, and it's fiercely regressive. You pay the same if your house is at £320,000 or £320 million. Now, subsequently we organised a protest against the disastrous cuts to disability benefits. So we're in the game of opposing austerity. Now, the Trussell report, which I think came out today, says that figures for 2023, so it's worse since then, show 9.3 million people in this country are suffering hunger and hardship, of whom 3 million are children, and it's worse now to come because of the storms that have been created across the Atlantic. Lifting the two-child benefit cap would alleviate poverty for 670,000 people, of whom 470,000 are children, but the government has ruled it out. Now, this has all been compounded, of course, with the ending of the winter fuel allowance for pensioners not in the most dire poverty, as determined by some means-tested benefit, whilst prices of privatised utilities are rocketing. And the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, in November of this year, estimated that the combined benefit cuts come to some £7 billion, and probably more, actually, representing the biggest cuts in disability benefit since the Office of Budget Responsibility was brought in 2010, and the worst social security cuts since the Osborne cuts of 2015. So this is austerity, no matter how much the government denies it. And they've, of course, I think, opened the door to reform with their policies, particularly these cuts. Reform pretends to be on the side of the poor, but of course they are, like Trump, in fact, discussing the racist party who are determined to take from the poor and give to the rich. Here in Bradford itself, a report from the Marie Curie Foundation from last year says that more than a third of working age people in Bradford were living in poverty when they died, and 30% of Bradford's pensioners are living in poverty when they die. Poverty is literally killing people. People in the most deprived areas of the country are dying 10 years earlier than in the least deprived. And we have these huge disparities, of course, of wealth and poverty here in Bradford. You have the leafy outdoor areas and then the inner city areas where there's a great deal of poverty. And yet this government has voluntarily imposed, Rachel Reeves has voluntarily imposed, a spending straitjacket, which won't be met, by the way, because they've just spent more than £15 billion than they're supposed to under that straitjacket, implying more spending cuts and tax rises for the majority, not least because they won't impose a wealth tax on the rich. And of course, there's a growing chorus amongst all of these people, and here's the connection to the climate crisis. You were wondering if I was going to make one. There's a growing chorus amongst all these people who are attacking the poor and responsible for the poverty, that we cannot afford to do what we need to do to stop the climate catastrophe which is racing towards us. So we can't afford, apparently, to feed the poor and to house the poor and to make the poor less poor, but we're not able at the same time to do what needs to be done to stop this climate crisis. Now, we are the 6th richest country in the world, and it really doesn't need to be this way. And as far as we're concerned, in Bradford United Against Austerity, we want to build resistance from below, We don't trust promises, not that they're making money these days, but we don't trust the promises of the people up above. We need to build resistance from below to all attacks on those of us who don't own and control the wealth in this country. And just one last point, as I think I've still got 30 seconds. On June the 14th or 15th, we're not quite sure which, there's going to be a We Demand Change regional conference in Leeds, where we hope groups such as yourselves and such as ourselves will all come together to help build that resistance. Thank you very much.